Number 5. When Flora meets Amarok. The reason why I included this is because Amarok was shown as a huge, menacing magi wolf. All of the girls were afraid of him, but Flora was able to look past that. Not only does this showcase Flora's tolerance of nature, but it also shows she's the most sensible of the bunch. To boot, during this episode, Flora was able to save each and every one of the girls, as well as a whole wolf pack. I also really love the contrast that's shown between Flora and Amarok. Flora is cool-headed, collected, and just overall reserved, whereas Amarok is a complete goofball. This leads to some conflict I'd really rather not get into, but it's still really heartwarming to see these two together. And for number 4, when Flora gains her Enchantix. In my personal opinion, nothing could top Techno's sacrifice for Enchantix, but Flora comes pretty close. Flora shares a special bond with her sister, Miele. Unfortunately, Flora coddles her way too much, and because of this, Miele is always trying to prove herself. However, this makes Flora's sacrifice for her sister all the more touching, especially since they sacrifice themselves for each other. There isn't much time for the emotion of this scene to sink in before she gains her Enchantix, but there is just enough time to show how much Flora cares for her sister. She would sacrifice everything to keep her safe.
I love you, my little blossom. Flora? Bubble, bring her up! Flora, no! Enchantix, oh.
Number 3. When Helia gives Flora confidence. Flora is definitely the shyest of her group. She's more subtle, and a take things at her own pace kind of gal. Because of this, she has a really tough time getting the things she wants, including her crush, Helia. Their relationship is much more subdued when compared to the other characters on the show. Most of the time, they just admire each other from afar. Before Flora confesses her feelings to Helia, she didn't really believe in her own abilities. She wasn't even sure if she could heal the Tree of Life. However, she is able to prove herself when Helia is there to support her. Flora then gains the courage to confess her feelings, which helps her gain her Charmix. From that point on, Flora has much more confidence in herself. I'm not one for sappiness, honestly, but I really admire how Helia helps Flora become her best self. Number 2. When Flora gains confidence in the Lilo episode. This is a moment that builds on from my last favorite moment. Flora is able to gain confidence from Helia, but unfortunately complete confidence doesn't bloom in a day. Flora begins to show a lack of belief in herself in Season 5. I personally find this weird considering what went on in Season 4, but I digress. Anyways, Flora begins to doubt herself once more, even with Helia in her thoughts. However, she's able to quickly redeem herself by standing up to the tricks, alone. This was quite a big deal considering normally only Bloom and occasionally Musa ever go up against them. Flora is able to prove her strength to herself, and I'm sure the fans couldn't be prouder.
You haven't got a chance against me. I believe I do! Autumn wins!
And finally, for my number 1 favorite Flora moment in the series, ever Flora connects with nature. Flora is one of the fairies who's most interconnected with her powers, along with Bloom and Stella. Oftentimes, this would appear to be a severe disadvantage for her. Whenever nature is weakened, so is she. However, someone completely changed my view on this, being considered a weakness. Sure, Flora loses energy sometimes, but she's actually incredibly durable. She spends a long time on Earth, a planet that's constantly being destroyed by humans, without breaking a sweat most of the time. Another thing I want to mention about Flora's bond with nature is just how useful it is. She's gotten the Winx out of many scrapes just by talking to nature. The plants can tell her pretty much anything she needs to know about the location of others, and even sometimes about what kind of magic is around. This is definitely Flora when she's most useful, and it says a lot as to why she's the second most powerful Winx.